Hello, I'm Paul Michelman, Director of Content for Harvard Business Digital, and I'm here today with Eric Jochenstaller, founder and CEO of Vivaldi Partners and a widely published author on brand strategy and marketing. Eric, thanks for taking the time to talk.
Thank you.
So our mission for today, which I think you're very well positioned to help us with, is to address a few of the most fundamental questions managers face in trying to lead innovation in their organizations. So to start us off, name two things every leader must do to facilitate ongoing innovation.
I think that the most important thing a leader must do is continuously charge the innovation process. It is not an effort of an occasional brilliance that is nurtured perhaps inside the R&D lab or the marketing organization. It is not the occasional opportunity that needs to be built on. And when I say supercharge or energize that innovation process, I mean innovating that or charging that from the outside in.
So what do you mean by that?
By outside in, I mean to nurture inside the organization a point of view about the customer, about consumers, and where the demand and how the demand is changing and how the demand is shaping, and using that kind of information, thoughts and insights to supercharge that innovation process across the entire organization.
So number two.
Number two is you need to find a way inside the organization to socialize this information. All too often we rely just simply on consumer insights that are buried inside the marketing research organization that oftentimes don't find the light at the right places. There needs to be some sort of water cooler effect, some ways of socializing that information and travel. In fact, I believe if you were to start from the outside in a systematic way and then use those information, the demand, the way demand is shaping outside, and then you socialize it inside the organization, you can actually break down barriers and create innovation not just within one silo of the organization, within one business unit, but you could use those information to energize the innovation process cross-functionally across businesses and across business units and across functional areas. And this is where the second major point comes in here.
Okay. So you mentioned breaking down barriers.
Yes.
Obviously a critically important concept. One of the barriers I imagine that most leaders face is the resistance to change.
Yes.
The resistance to new ideas. And innovation, of course, demands change.
Yes.
So how do you overcome that barrier?
Well, I believe that the way to do that is the way the current practices are is you invite some outsiders, you do some research, you establish an innovation landscape, and then you celebrate the new potential and opportunities that the company has. And I believe what the company needs to do is needs to teach a process through the organization that is not one sort of dog and pony trick that perhaps was done as part of inviting a consulting company for a 3 or 6 months process. It is not, as often it is, a month or year-long program of restructuring or reinventing yourself, but it is applying a set of tools based out of a common framework and system, and so that everybody in the organization, regardless how far along they are in the innovation agenda, can pick from and then use those tools and move the organization forward. If you look at Jeff Immel's work and across GE, there are tools, there are processes, there are frameworks that are disseminated in the organization, that are taught in Crottonville, and therefore develop innovation not as just a creative process, but innovation as a structured process, as a process that can be learned and not just as something that is residing within a few people. And so what Jeff Immelt has done in his organization, he has offered those tools, and there are many. There is a laundry list of things. And some organizations pick them up faster than others within GE. Some pick them up. Number two, he has institutionalized several, if let's call it silo boundary spanning positions that are, for example, I describe in my book the GE market leader for GE Healthcare, with whom we spent quite some time, whose only role is to foster the innovations across the entire GE organization on behalf of his particular unit, namely the GE Healthcare unit. Those are the things.
What's your favorite innovation story?
I find the Apple story success obviously inspiring, totally inspiring. It's a worldwide phenomenon. What I find very interesting is that in 2001, when Steve Jobs knew, or 2 or 3, when he knew that he had a great product on his hand, that was the iPod. Think about it. If you were the CEO of Apple, who has spent 30 years in the computer industry, what would you do with a $299 gadget that you sell now, that works, that relative to the $2,500 machines that you have been selling for 30 years? What most managers would do, they would say, oh yes, this is a new device that makes computers more helpful, perhaps an accessory, and you would bury that innovation down somewhere on your website under accessories, under mouses and stereo speakers, and you can also buy an iPod. What Steve Jobs recognized is that the $299 device is not a device that is an accessory to the computer or what it may be. It is actually an entirely new growth platform. But the key innovation part for me is that Steve Jobs took that opportunity to innovate around product. He innovated around a new business model. He had to travel all the way to New York to convince EMI executives to sell them the song for 69 cents so he can resell them for 99. It is a software or service innovation. It is a process innovation. He has changed the way we manage music, how we find out music, how we evaluate music, how we select music, how we buy music, how we store it, and how we discard it. And therefore, today, Steve Jobs and his company in particular, Apple, is not just the biggest, one of the best computer companies, it is also the biggest music company, for God's sake. And it is the #1 music retailer online. So I think it is that kind of innovation, thinking through the episodes of consumers' everyday life, of how they manage their music, and then innovating across the entire innovation spectrum, not just product innovation. That has created the success of Apple, and that's why I'm so excited for that company and the huge success they enjoy today.
Thank you. I mean, I think one of the core lessons that everyone needs to take away from this is that when you've got something, you've got to dare to step back and imagine just how big it can be if you reconceive the entire market.
If you think about it, there are 2 billion downloads now. We know that the iPod is slowing down in sales growth. But if you think about the opportunity, thank you, Paul, for the question, because if you think about the opportunity, currently, on the average, there are 26 downloads for an iPod. For a $299 iPod, you can download 10,753 songs. Now imagine if he already sold now 2 billion, how huge the opportunity is. So that's to my point. If you want to really see the biggest opportunities in plain sight, then what you need to do as a leader, and this is to your first question, you need to start thinking from the outside in an unbiased way, not from the computer perspective, not from the iPod perspective, and see how you can innovate from that, and that can supercharge the innovation process in your organization beyond your wildest dreams.
Eric Jochen-Stahler, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul.